I can't afford a taxi.
Get a job.
Are you one of those people who think that celebrities have it easy? It would surprise you to find that some of these stars fell on the hardest of times. Stay tuned to see 10 golden age stars who went totally broke.
Where is that villain, Captain Hook? I'll slice him up and throw him to that crocodile.
Bobby Driscoll. It goes without saying that Bobby Driscoll possessed an innate talent for acting, as he was discovered quite unexpectedly. He was only 5.5 when he was discovered in a barbershop somewhere in Altadena, California. Throughout his 17-year career spanning from 1943 to 1960, he consistently delivered convincing performances on both the silver screen and television. Notable highlights from his filmography include The Fighting Sullivans in 1944, The Song of the South in 1946, So Dear to My Heart in 1948, and The Window in 1949. His role in The Window notably earned him the Academy Award for Outstanding Juvenile Actor in the year 1950. That same year, he portrayed Jim Hawkins in Walt Disney's film Treasure Island. This role further solidified his position as a star, so it was not surprising that he received his Hollywood star on Vine Street shortly after. In 1950, Bobby Driscoll became the 9th of only 12 children in Hollywood's history to be honored with an Academy Juvenile Award for exceptional performances in feature films. During his peak years at Disney Studios, Driscoll was raking in $1,750 every week. Factor in the rate of inflation since then, and you'll see that it was a whole lot of money. Sadly, the success of this fast-rising star did not last forever. The downward spiral of this child star began as he started to grow old. As the story goes, the lovable typecast of Driscoll was about to change. During a project meeting following the completion of Peter Pan, Disney stated that Driscoll seemed more suited for roles as a younger bully rather than a beloved protagonist. Then came puberty. Like some 16-year-olds, Driscoll was hit with severe acne, so this change in boyish physical appearance was an instant setback that resulted in waning interest from Hollywood studios. So despite his acclaimed voice work as Peter Pan in the 1953 animated film, his acting career was halted at 16. With prematurely terminated contracts and an inability to secure more roles, surely you can imagine how badly this was going to end. Consequently, during his post-Disney years, he managed to find some prominence on American television in various series and dramas such as Dragnet, Medic, and Climax. He still found roles in anthology programs like Fireside Theater, Schlitz Playhouse of Stars, and TV's Reader's Digest, but none of this came close to his earlier works. In the mid-1950s, Driscoll grappled with a drug addiction. To make things worse, Driscoll found himself on the wrong side of the law. With several encounters with law enforcement officers, Driscoll was eventually sentenced as a drug addict in 1961. Upon his release in early 1962, he pursued common jobs and reconnected with the Los Angeles art scene. After his parole expired in 1964, he relocated to New York City and immersed himself in the local avant-garde under the mentorship of pop art icon Andy Warhol. Somewhere in all of that, Driscoll made efforts at rehabilitation, but his tainted reputation hindered his return to the industry. This ultimately dug him deeper into a downward spiral. Considering he could not revive his acting career, he was thrust into a world of financial hardship. The end result was even more tragic. Bobby Driscoll was found dead in an abandoned East Village tenement on March 30, 1968. Imagine being discovered by a group of small children playing in an abandoned housing block. Even more heartbreaking is the fact that he was buried in an unmarked pauper's grave on Hart Island. Isn't this the most heartbreaking end to a once promising career?
Oh, I love your suits. It must be a bitch getting a size 68 extra fat and a 12.
Bert Reynolds. Bert Reynolds is an enduring and charismatic presence in American cinema. He first made his mark in television during the 1960s, before becoming an iconic figure in the 70s and 80s popular culture. Born Burton Leon Reynolds on February 11, 1936 in Lansing, Michigan, he grew up in Riviera Beach, Florida. His father notably served as chief of police, so he had the right background to excel as an athlete. Reynolds played football at Florida State University. Well, that is, until a knee injury and a car accident ended his sports career. This was when he turned his sights to acting. In the early days, he worked odd jobs in New York while seeking opportunities in theater and television. Reynolds gained recognition for his performances in various television series, including Gunsmoke, Riverboat, and his own show, Hawk. In time, he transitioned to film. He built a reputation for portraying tough characters with a southern charm. A classic example is his standout role as Louis Medlock in the 1972 film Deliverance. His roles in action-packed films like White Lightning, The Longest Yard, and Gator further solidified his status as a leading man in Hollywood. All this success, and he had not even gotten to the peak yet. By the late 1970s, Reynolds achieved immense success with the Smokey and the Bandit franchise. He was also featured in hits like Semi-Tough in 1977 and The Cannonball Run in 1981. Would you be surprised to learn that Reynolds was also something of a sex symbol? Of course not. Besides his outstanding movie performances, he gained attention for his daring photo shoots. This included a nearly naked pose for Cosmopolitan magazine. However, despite early successes, Reynolds faced setbacks with several film projects in the early 1980s, and this led to a decline in popularity. After a little break, Reynolds returned to the screen but found himself portraying roles that failed to captivate the public's attention. Sounds like he wouldn't rise from this adversity, right? But no, Reynolds kept working until he landed the standout role of a drunken politician in the otherwise lackluster 1996 film Striptease. The following year, the audience loved him as a charismatic porn director in Boogie Nights. This role in particular earned him a Best Supporting Actor nomination. Just like a phoenix, Reynolds had risen from the ashes. He was back, much bigger and much better. Reynolds experienced a resurgence in popularity. He now attracted a new generation of fans who may have been unfamiliar with his earlier roles in the 70s. He continued to deliver entertaining performances in films such as Pups, Mystery Alaska, Driven, and Time of the Wolf. Wouldn't you say that resilience and hard work are the best ways to describe his remarkable career? Now, during his peak years, Reynolds earned $10 million per movie. Reports confirmed that he once owned a sprawling 153-acre ranch in southern Florida. Needless to say, Reynolds was the kind of star who could have gone on to leave behind transgenerational wealth. However, he would eventually have his own fair share of financial setbacks. Perhaps the worst of all was right after his divorce from his second wife, Lonnie Anderson, in 1993. 3 years later, Reynolds filed for bankruptcy. He had accrued debts totaling $11.2 million against only $6.65 million in assets. He even had to let go of his iconic South Florida ranch, which he dubbed the Bert Reynolds Ranch. He had used his property as a filming location for various movies, but in the time of financial distress, he had to sell it to the Palm Beach County School District in 1999 for $3.8 million. By 2017, that property was transformed into an upscale neighborhood, with homes fetching prices exceeding $1 million. Sometime in December 2015, Reynolds spoke to Vanity Fair. During the course of the interview, he reflected on his financial woes as the result of being careless with his money for years. In his own words, "I've lost more money than is possible because I just haven't watched it. I've still done well in terms of owning property and things like that, but I haven't been somebody who's been smart about his money. There are a couple of actors who are quite brilliant with the way they've handled their money, but they're not very good actors." To round up the topic, he confirmed that he trusted the wrong people with his money and that women were the things that cost him the most. Interestingly, Reynolds gets himself together in the end. He passed away from cardiac arrest on September 6, 2018 at the age of 82. However, at the time of his passing, reports indicated that Reynolds' net worth was approximately $5 million. Up next is a Canadian actor who went from booked and busy to a shocking bankruptcy filing.
I'm a lonely boy. I ain't got a home. I've got a voice.
Cory Heim. Cory Heim was born on December 23, 1971, in Toronto, Ontario. He was raised primarily in Willowdale. It wasn't long before he began his acting career. He started off with a recurring role in the early 1980s Canadian series The Edson Twins. Next, he broke into the film industry in 1984, when he portrayed a young boy entangled in a familial conflict in Firstborn. This was followed by a leading role in the TV movie A Time to Live in 1985, which earned him a Young Artist Award. Throughout the 1980s, Heim showcased his talent in various genres, including comedies like Secret Admirer, Murphy's Romance, as well as the horror film Silver Bullet. All of these projects hit the screen in 1985. Wouldn't you say booked and busy is the perfect way to describe Heim's career? And he had not even reached his peak stardom yet. His role in Joel Schumacher's The Lost Boys in 1987 was what really propelled him to stardom. In the following years, Heim continued to appear in comedies such as License to Drive in 1988 and Dream a Little Dream in 1989. Cory Heim tragically passed away suddenly on March 10, 2010 in Burbank, California due to pneumonia. Sadly, the 80s film sensation turned out to be a frequent drug user who faced dire financial straits upon his passing. His longtime friend and co-star, Corey Feldman, even revealed that he had no home or car to his name. In his peak years, Heim was making a lot of money, the kind of money that many can only dream of. Sadly, like many child stars, he fell into a drug habit that subsequently killed his career. As the flow of acting gigs reduced, his frequent drug use and rehab stints did nothing but deplete his bank accounts further. According to Southern California Public Radio, Heim applied for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection sometime in 1999. His debts totaled to $100,000 owed to the IRS and an additional $100,000 in unspecified debt. Earlier reports that circulated assert that, in a desperate attempt to raise funds, he once resorted to selling a tooth and some strands of his hair on eBay in 2001. He attempted rehabilitation about 15 times. Sadly, none of it stuck. Would you believe that around 20 doctors were subpoenaed after his death? Apparently, he rotated different doctors just so that he could have access to more prescription medication. The star passed away, leaving only a few $1,000s worth of cash, clothing, and royalty rights and assets.
I would do anything for love.
Meatloaf. Born Michael Lee Aday on September 27, 1947, Meatloaf would go on to achieve phenomenal success in his lifetime. The American singer and actor shot to stardom following his 1977 album, Bat Out of Hell. Depending on the platform you check, this album ranks as the top 5 best-selling albums of all time. With 43 million copies sold and platinum status awarded 14 times by the Recording Industry Association of America. In addition to his music career, Meatloaf ventured into acting. You would find him in over 100 films, including notable titles like Fight Club and Wayne's World. Despite his initial success, Meatloaf faced financial turmoil and declared bankruptcy in 1983. Can you guess why? Like many stars who went broke, Meatloaf fell prey to the problem of poor financial management and addiction issues with alcohol and cocaine. Also compounding his woes was the high costs associated with subsequent legal battles. This significant factor began with his strained relationship with songwriter Jim Steinman. Their issue culminated in numerous lawsuits, including one where Meatloaf sought $500 million from Steinman. Later, reflecting on this time, Meatloaf revealed that he had 45 lawsuits to deal with, and everything totaled to about $80 million thrown at him. Following the bankruptcy, Meatloaf struggled to regain financial stability. He even resorted to intensive touring to cover expenses. Despite bankruptcy shredding the burden of debt, he lamented the loss of his home and publishing rights to his songs. He also allegedly lost unpaid royalties from Sony, which he estimated to be at least $5 million. Waiting to hear a grim end? Well, not for Meatloaf. By 1993, Meatloaf released Bat Out of Hell 2, which included his biggest hit, I'd Do Anything for Love, But I Won't Do That. A couple more hits after Meatloaf was able to amass a net worth of $40 million at the time of his death in 2022. Next is another teen sensation who could not seamlessly transition into an adult career.
We can do that right now.
Do what?
We'll play Shakespeare, Romeo and Juliet. You know, we were about the ages that Shakespeare had in mind when he wrote it, so it'd be perfect.
Leif Garrett. In 1978, Leif Garrett was something of a teen idol who achieved success both as an actor and a musician. Born on November 8, 1961 in Hollywood, California, Leif Garrett was immersed in the entertainment industry from an early age. He made his acting debut in the 1969 blockbuster film Bob and Carol and Ted and Alice. Although he was uncredited in that film, he subsequently appeared as a guest star in various TV shows, such as Nanny and the Professor, Family Affair, Cannon, Gunsmoke, and The Odd Couple. His exposure increased with roles in films like Walking Tall and People Toys, a 1974 film in which he acted alongside his sister Dawn Lynn. By 1975, Garrett gained more recognition as his role as Andy Karras in the TV series Three for the Road. Despite the show's brief run, he still garnered attention from teen magazines and fan mail. In addition to acting, Garrett ventured into music. He signed a recording contract with Atlantic Records. Then he released a self-titled debut album, which featured cover singles like Surfin' USA and Roundabout Sue. Although he released 3 more albums, his music career eventually slowed in the early 1980s. Turning to acting again, he would not find much success either. Despite a memorable supporting role in the 1983 film The Outsiders, Garrett's subsequent films were less successful. In the late 1990s, he returned to music again, this time playing in a band named Godspeed and performing his original music. However, like many teen sensations, his popularity waned, most likely because he transitioned into adulthood. Struggling to find consistent work and compounded by substance abuse issues, Garrett filed for bankruptcy in October 2001. According to court documents, Garrett endured very dire financial problems as he had only $350 to his name and was surviving on a meager monthly allowance from his mother.
Sexual healing, baby, is good for me. That's good.
Marvin Gay. Born on April 2, 1939, Marvin Gay was the son of a church minister and domestic worker. Now dubbed the Prince of Soul, he began singing in the church with his father. We bet nobody could have predicted the final outcome when Marvin Gay struck out to make a name for himself. But first, he was expelled from the household when he transitioned to secular music. Despite this, Gay rose to prominence as one of Motown's leading figures. He excelled as both a producer and an artist in the 1960s. Gay's contributions to music are still widely celebrated today. He has earned numerous accolades and honors, including a Grammy Award for his 1982 hit single Sexual Healing and a Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award. He was also posthumously inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, the Songwriters Hall of Fame, and the Rhythm and Blues Hall of Fame. However, financial challenges plagued Gay. He filed for bankruptcy in 1976 due to outstanding alimony payments. He reportedly owed his ex-wife approximately $600,000. Compounding his financial woes was a substance abuse addiction. All of these problems culminated in a temporary tax exile in Europe. Despite these setbacks, Gay attempted a comeback with Sexual Healing. This song became a massive success, topping the charts and selling millions of copies worldwide. But just when it looked like things were really looking up, the unimaginable happened. You see, his resurgence was short-lived, and he was fatally shot by his father a day before his 45th birthday. Reports suggest that tensions between Gay and his father had escalated. Some accounts say it was fueled by jealousy. Others blamed it on his father's disapproval of his music. There was even speculation that it was the result of a misunderstanding over an insurance policy. So, despite leaving behind a rich musical legacy, Gay had little in the way of assets at the time of his death, save for his intellectual property rights. His estate had been burdened with debt, but somehow it was managed by executors who successfully paid off his creditors through the marketing of his music rights. Fortunately, his estate also accumulated substantial assets, ensuring financial security for his 3 children. Next is a beloved actress who sadly could not handle the pressures of fame. Erin Moran. Erin Moran was renowned for her contagious smile and animal-loving heart. Sadly, her later years were anything but rosy. The actress was born on October 18, 1960 in Burbank, California. She was the youngest child of Sharon and Edward Moran, who had 5 other children. By the time she graduated from North Hollywood High School, Moran would set her sights on the entertainment industry. Her acting career began with a TV commercial, but she really gained prominence as Joni Cunningham, Richie Cunningham's sister on ABC's Happy Days in 1974. However, prior to this role, she was a regular on the series Daktari in 1966 and made guest appearances on various TV shows, including My 3 Sons in 1960, Family Affair in 1966, The Waltons in 1972, and a couple more. In addition to her television work, Moran also appeared in feature films alongside notable stars such as Debbie Reynolds in How Sweet It Is in 1968, Godfrey Cambridge in Watermelon Man in 1970, and Wayne Newton in 80 Steps to Jonah in 1969. Following the end of Happy Days, later in 1984, Moran struggled to find consistent roles as an adult. She made sporadic guest appearances on scripted and reality shows, but she would eventually leave Hollywood after facing foreclosure on her home. Tragically, Moran passed away on April 22, 2017, in Corydon, Indiana, at the age of 56. She was found deceased in the trailer she shared with her husband and mother-in-law. Reports suggest that Moran's final years were marked by financial hardship and homelessness. At some point, she had even been expelled from her mother-in-law's trailer park residence. Apparently, she became accustomed to late-night escapades and returning home with the most disruptive behaviors in tow, from appearing haggard whenever she was publicly spotted and recognized to always having a cigarette in hand. Moran may have just had the saddest couple of years up until her death. Friend and co-actor Paul Peterson admitted that he and a couple of others tried to lend a helping hand at different points, but for some reason their efforts never were enough. In his own words, it was a very dark room. Some don't find the light switch in time. If you made it this far, do hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any updates from us.
Before I go insane, I hold my pillow to my head and spring up in my bed, screaming out the word.
David Cassidy. Born on April 12, 1950 in Manhattan, David Cassidy was a highly talented actor and singer. Considering both of his parents were actors, following their footsteps was one of the most likely things. At the tender age of 5, his parents parted ways. His father, Jack Cassidy, tied the knot with Shirley Jones, a prominent actress who had just graced the screen in the 1955 film Oklahoma. When David was around 10, his mother relocated from New Jersey to California. Shortly thereafter, she remarried a movie director. Struggling academically, David faced expulsion from multiple schools and barely managed to complete a single year of college. At the age of 18, he journeyed east to New York to showcase his talents in a play titled The Fig Leaves Are Falling. While he made several appearances on television, it was in 1970 that he landed the role of Keith Partridge on the beloved 1970 TV series The Partridge Family. Turns out that his real-life stepmother, Shirley Jones, would portray his on-screen mother, Shirley. Now, isn't that something interesting? After 2 failed marriages in 1976 and 1984, he found love again and married Sue Schifrin. Together, they welcomed 2 children, a son named Beau and an actress named Katie Cassidy. By 1994, he penned a book chronicling his experiences as Keith Partridge. He even performed updated renditions of songs from the Partridge Family era. We bet you think everything seems rosy, but that would be wrong. You see, Cassidy was heading towards a downward spiral. Following 3 arrests for drunk driving and a stint in a court-ordered rehab, David Cassidy faced financial turmoil. Sadly, it all culminated in his filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in 2015. There was also a subsequent sale of his cherished Florida residence. When reflecting on this dark chapter in his life, he attributed his dire financial straits to unwise investments and the inability to land more acting gigs and plan international tours. So despite earning an average monthly income of $12,500, Cassidy found himself drowning in expenses totaling $27,772. If this doesn't signal the start of a financial decline, then we don't know what will. Sadly, his problems weren't just financial. He also had to deal with a few personal problems, having lost his home, his wife, and the remnants of his career. David Cassidy's passing at the age of 67 in 2017, due to alcohol-induced liver failure, left his dedicated fan base devastated by his untimely and tragic demise. In his will, he bequeathed his inheritance to his son Beau, and shockingly omitted his daughter Katie entirely. Remarkably, Katie, who had experienced a tumultuous relationship with her father, reportedly harbored no ill feelings about her exclusion from his will. This was not the only shock to come from the will, though. Despite his history of financial mismanagement, Cassidy left behind more assets than anticipated. Beau inherited $450,000 from a retirement plan and a $1 million life insurance policy. Did he really go broke, or did he somehow manage to get his acting together before passing? Your guess is as good as ours. Next is an 80s star who might just have been forced out of the limelight.
Where are we going?
Kim Basinger. Kim Basinger was born on December 8, 1953 in Athens, Georgia. After bagging the Junior Miss Georgia title when she was little, she quickly ascended to the top echelons of the modeling world. At the age of 20, Kim was commanding a hefty fee of $1,000 per day. Throughout the early 1970s, her face graced numerous magazine covers and advertisements. Still wanting more, Kim relocated to Los Angeles in 1976 and made her television debut with appearances on hit series like Charlie's Angels. You might recall her as Dominio Petacci, the Bond girl in Never Say Never Again, or Vicky Hale, the female lead in the 1989 Batman movie. So, ever wondered why this wildly popular actress in the 80s and 90s virtually disappeared from the spotlight? Unfortunately, the Oscar winner was involved in an investment group that was a little too confident. They bought into the town of Brazelton, Georgia. You see, they had hopes to transform it into not just a tourist destination, but also a center for film and TV production. Sounds like a great investment, right? Sadly, the venture ultimately failed, and this resulted in substantial financial losses for her. To make things even worse, she faced a lawsuit from Mainline Pictures after backing out of a verbal agreement to star in Boxing Helena. Although initially ordered to pay $8.1 million, the ruling was overturned on appeal. Ultimately, she settled for $3.8 million after declaring bankruptcy. But this isn't a grim story. the 70-year-old is now quietly enjoying a deeply fulfilling life away from the camera's gaze, which includes family and volunteering.
Just may be your brand new bus driver.
Well, bus driver you may be, but brand new you ain't.
Gary Coleman. Gary Coleman emerged as the quintessential child's TV star of the late 1970s and early 1980s. He captivated audiences with his confident demeanor and endearing personality. Despite his young age, Coleman exuded a maturity beyond his years, a quality accentuated by his congenital kidney condition, which aged him prematurely. Born Gary Wayne Coleman on February 8, 1968, he had a congenital kidney condition. As a result, he underwent 2 kidney transplants by age 16. Sadly, the effects of his medical treatment stunted his growth, leaving him at just 4 foot 8 inches as he grew older. Coleman's talent was evident from a young age. He showcased in local Chicago commercials before catching the attention of Norman Lear's talent scout. His charm and comedic talent landed him roles in popular sitcoms like The Jeffersons and Good Times. Even NBC recognized his potential by granting him his own primetime sitcom. Considering the fact that renowned figures like Bob Hope and Lucille Ball praised his comedic genius, you can see how easily he got propelled into the spotlight of the talk show circuit and TV movie showcases. However, as Coleman transitioned into adulthood, he struggled to break free from his juvenile image. At some point, he felt trapped and pigeonholed by his childhood fame. Despite his efforts to move beyond his child star persona, Hollywood struggled to find suitable roles for him as an adult. Sadly, this led to a decline in his career. Alongside his professional challenges, Coleman faced personal struggles, including health issues and financial woes. He also had occasional run-ins with the law, from harassment to reckless driving. By 1989, Coleman would sue his adoptive parents and business manager for misappropriating his earnings. He did win a $1.2 million settlement, but quickly lost all of it to tax debts, legal fees, and continuous dialysis treatment. By 1999, Coleman declared bankruptcy and sought work outside of the entertainment industry as a security guard. Still think these stars still have it easy? Do let us know your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button. You can't miss the next video on your screen.